Me, Declan, from Dilly, FB Pictures, and Seabar Productions. I had an idea for a movie, or no, a television program. Not involved with Dilly at all. This would be my own thing. Called Richard and Nixon, and it was about two crime-fighting detectives who live in New York. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about the characters. I mean, Richard is a businessman, and he became a detective in the early 70s. But his head is a basketball, and he has hands and feet, and he can move those. Doesn't have any body or legs or arms or anything like that, so he doesn't really move, and he can't talk. And his partner Nixon is an umbilical cord, just like a dead umbilical cord from a fetus, and you can't move and you can't talk. And they live in a firehouse, just like the Ghostbusters. And basically, they had this receptionist named Meredith D'Angelo, and she has no arms, and no legs, and no eyes, and no mouth, and no ears, and no hair. And she has one nostril. And that's their receptionist, so they need her to pick up calls and stuff like that. So she just uses the smellophone, and it shoots a brain message to the other people who need to get the message, that kind of thing. Then they have another guy who is kind of like he's a partner of theirs. He helps them out in certain episodes. He's a black man, and he is 1 foot tall, and he's as wide as a city block, and that was the one that I always loved, because thinking of that guy just made me smile, I just loved him, but he can't talk, so he doesn't have a lot of comedy, Then there was Richard's love interest. She doesn't have any legs. She gets around in a wheelchair, and she doesn't have any eyelids, and all her teeth are just stuck to one of her lips. She only has one lip, just up here. And, excuse me, you need to stop laughing. This is serious. And her nipples are not human nipples. They're like redwood trees that just are on her nipples, and they have trucks that carry them around for her. Okay. They solve crimes, and many other people join in the story as the show progresses. There's one guy who's another detective, and he's a gay guy, and he walks on the 2 stubs of arms that he has. He doesn't have any arms, and his legs up in the air, and the way he talks, he doesn't have any eyes either, but he has a mouth, and he doesn't have ears, and he has hair, and it's big and fancy like Lady Gaga's, because he's gay, and he walks on the stubs of his arms, and how he talks is there's this squid that performs anal oral sex to him with its tentacles, and it only talks in Korean out of its beak. But the squid has arms and legs, it just chooses not to walk. And, they solve crimes, and, they stop other people. One of the main villains that they're usually fighting against, he doesn't really have a name. He's kind of like the main one that it's fighting against, is this guy who's got, the features of a toad, basically, for a face. And his arms and legs are constructed out of feces, and his body is just like a normal body, and he can't talk. He kind of just makes he speaks in tongues, sort of just go that kind of thing. And I don't know. I think that was basically how the first episode would start out as Richard and Nixon are called by the receptionist through the smellophone, and they don't get up because they can't move. Because they don't have bodies, and they're not alive. Except Richard moves his feet and his hands a little bit, so but he can't move arms, so he just moves them. And then the black guy kills everybody on the sidewalk because, as I told you, he is as wide as a sidewalk. And the love interest, I didn't really think of anything. And the gay guy. Oh, but there is a spin-off series where Richard and the love interest go to Africa and they solve crimes in Africa with one lady who is a centimeter tall, but her head is like the size of a billboard, and she's got really, excuse me, you need to stop. And she's got really giant buck teeth and a cowboy hat, but she doesn't have any like pupils in her eyes. She's just kind of got like white eyes. She's blind. She can't see. You need to be quiet. You really need to be quiet. This is a serious show that I have an idea for.
So.
Anyway, yeah, thank you. And anyway, so, and that they solve crimes in Africa, and they're mostly trying to stop herpes, which is a deadly mix of herpes and AIDS. And one guy's affected by it, and he's constantly like, he has like millions of herpes sores all over him. And then the detectives that were already there in Africa, who they meet up with, is this one, this brother and sister detective who are linked twins, or like conjoined twins. And one of them is like, the brother's extremely fat, and his penis is as thin as like a thumbtack, like the point on a thumbtack, but it's really long. It's like a foot long. And his sister is, nothing's wrong with her, but she has like really skinny legs that like constantly bleed. So the brother walks for both of them and she uses the hands and they crawl like a dog. Also, they like rape each other, I guess. I didn't really think of that.